Hello Internet, Andrew Huang here again for LPX Studios. Today's episode is going to be on the topic of how do you go about picking a smartwatch for yourself. I'm going to go over a couple points here and there, but pretty much this is just my take on the several different watches, as well as pretty much I'm going to pretend like I'm a Best Buy associate standing there trying to sell it to you, or not sell it to you, but just kind of give you pointers on stuff. First thing you want to look out for is, actually the main thing you want to look out for is, before price and anything like that, is what are you looking for out of the watch? Whether you're a first-time user or a veteran user like I am, there are things that you want out of the watch. Whether what you've seen from commercials or what you've heard from your friends and family, what are you looking for? And that's what you have to ask yourself, because at this point, since last year, there's so many different watches that have come out, and now you can have your pick of the litter. You have to ask yourself, are you going to be just fitness oriented, or do you want just notifications, or do you want to be able to make phone calls from your watch, or do you want to do all of the above, or just one? You have to ask yourself that first. Here are the few categories I want you to keep in mind. So number one is definitely the fitness trackers. Those were out first, technically speaking. Devices like the Fitbits that track your steps, your calories burned, your distance ran, and all that stuff, all the health stuff. Now there are dedicated smartwatches out there now that are just devoted to doing nothing but fitness tracking. I'm not going to list all the products out now because they're not all in my head, but the few that come in mind are the Garmin watches, the Fitbits, and the Nike Fuel Bands. And I know there's more out there. I'll go ahead and put some images on the side for you to take a look at. But you definitely want to keep out, and if that's all you're looking for, then those are perfect for you. I mean, that you can pretty much stop this video right now. But if you're looking for a little bit more, let's say you want notifications as well. Now the world has opened to you, because if you just say that, it's just like telling someone that you want a pizza, and that's it. Like, well, what kind of pizza? There's so many different types of pizzas or toppings, and the same thing with the notification route. I just want to get notifications on my watch. Well, what kind of notifications? How do you want to get the notifications? Do you want to be able to read them, or do you just want to be alerted that you got them? And that. So those are more questions you need to ask yourself. And once you've answered those, then you can go ahead and move on. So, I mean, if you're just looking for notifications with like no apps, there's, once again, any of the watches out there are good for you again. I know that's very vague, but that at the end of the day, it's just like asking you, well, I just want to make phone calls. So then just pick your phone. I mean, whatever phone looks good to you, you choose it. But let's move up a little bit further now. Let's say you want apps. Like, you just went ahead and leave your phone in your pocket, but you want to play games, you want to get notifications, you want to look at your news, you want to watch videos, etc., etc. You want to do it on your watch. Now this enters where you have to now decide between the three operating systems out there, which are Pebble, Android Wear, and Tizen, which is Samsung's operating software. Now there are a few others that are out there, whether they're Chinese third party or new entries into the market, but I'm going to focus on these three for now, just because those are the three established players at this point. And each of them offer a different take on it. So if any of you watched my Android Wear video, I kind of discussed my dislikes about it, but I do have some likes about that watch as well too. So if you're just going to be focused on just doing nothing but notifications in general, Android Wear, Pebble, and Samsung, all three of them do the job well. And at that point in time, it's just a matter of you just deciding whether that's just all you want. Then you can just go ahead and then you just pick between the designs and the comfortability and the price of them. Oh, one thing to point out though, Android Wear will only work on Android phones, obviously, and Pebble will actually work for both Android and Apple. So if you're an Apple user and you can't wait for the Apple Watch, get a Pebble. And Samsung devices, other than the Gear Live, which is an Android Wear operating, all the other Samsung Gear devices are only meant for Samsung devices, so obviously. So that's the one thing you have to keep in mind. I know someone actually messaged me about why their Gear 2 wouldn't work for their Nexus phone, and it's because it's not a Samsung device. Foul play on that too, but I can go ahead and say the same thing for Apple. They're releasing the Apple Watch, but it's only for the iPhone. I know that's not really an argument. But going back to the apps, each operating system offers several different types of apps. And if I were to rank them from best to worst, I would say Pebble and Android Wear are probably on par with one another on the needed apps. If you go for overall apps, Android Wear wins. They have the most apps out there right now, good and bad, but they have a nice variety. Pebble has a good amount out there as well too. All the necessary and maybe some unnecessary apps are out there now for Pebble. And I would say Tizen, which is the Samsung Gears, will fall last, just because from my personal experience with my Gear S right now, it's it's lacking at best. There definitely could be more, but there isn't right now, which is unfortunate, but that's the name of the game. And there's that. So another thing to look out for is just pretty much how the different operating systems work. Do you want to just pretty much just look at, you get a little buzz and look at your watch and that's it, you don't want to do anything more? Or do you want to actually be able to sit there and play with your watch? Whether you want to go through the notifications, go through the apps, reply back and whatnot, you have to be able to do it as well too. Another thing that you might want to consider is, well, do you just want to do voice commands? And that too. And these are all questions you have to ask yourself. I know this video is running a little long, but this is pretty much what you need to know to buy these watches, because these things are not cheap. There are cheap ones from China that you can get to just try it out if you want. But if you're seriously thinking about buying one of these, and they're $100+ purchase, I know it's a serious purchase, and I want to give you all the information you need. And sorry, I just got another notification there. But that's another thing. It's just like, what is it that you are looking for? Because at the end of the day, it's just what is that you need, or do you think you would need? I was an early adopter for this technology because I was just crazy about it. Just other people say Dick Tracy, I say Power Rangers and whatnot. But it's pretty much a step in that direction where now we don't even need the phones. We can just go ahead and bring the watches around and eventually just wear your glasses or nothing because it's all built in. But that's way in the future. Right now, it's just a step in that direction. So besides the functionality, because what I've noticed between the other first adopters that I've met, so the people who've bought, other beginners, so people who've gotten the Android Wear first, or their Samsung Gear device, or their Pebble watch, all of them have gotten used to their respective systems. I've heard zero complaints from any of them because that's what they were introduced to and that's what they're used to. The only people that I've heard complaining are people like me who have actually tried all three types of operating systems. And that's because they all have their pros and cons. And obviously, once you've tried all of them, you can go ahead and say, well, I like this aspect of that, and I hate this, and that of each other. And I personally have stuck with the Samsung operating system, and my opinion on that is just because I like the fact that they sort of kept the phone functionality. And what I mean by that is how you navigate your phone in general. Like, you're used to going through the phone, swiping left and right, having the apps and widgets right there. You're used to that, and they've maintained that. Now Pebble they've kind of digressed, where they don't follow a touchscreen mentality. They've followed a button functionality. So it's sort of like the old school function where you navigate the menus and everything by using the buttons on the watch. I've heard no complaints about that. So for people who've had the Pebble and started with the Pebble, they loved it, just because it's what they've been wanting, and so there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's if you don't mind the button functions, the Pebble might be the way to go. And for the Android Wear people, the reason, like for me, why in my last video I was kind of against it was because they kind of changed entirely. They didn't go with what Pebble did or what Samsung did. They were just like, we're gonna make a new interface, and this is how they're gonna navigate now. So it's very heavily voice command driven and touchscreen driven. What I mean by that is they have widgets that you can easily cycle through, and then they have separate apps, but a lot of them are solely controlled by the voice. You can't get to them manually, which you kind of got to go through a couple hoops and ladders to get to, but you can do it. I've had issues with the functionality of it just because I went from the Samsung, then the Pebble, then to the Android Wear, so I had predetermined expectations on how apps should work. But for those that just started with the Android Wear, they had no issues. Kind of a little jealous of them, but they had no issues using the watch. So don't let that discourage you. This is just my own little personal take on it. But let's go back to the watches in general. At the end of the day, it's what you're looking for. I mean, if you don't care about the look, if you don't care about the feel, and just the functionality, and you just want notifications and fitness, you don't need to spend over $100 on these watches. Just because you can go get a Pebble for $100, you can get a Fitbit for under $100. You have your options out there. And the thing is, I've heard a lot of people kind of complain and say that, oh, why would they release a rubber band for these watches? And I just, that doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't. Because a lot of the people buying these watches want it for the convenience factor, not for the look. The watches look great as itself. I mean, people who have had smartwatches up to now, or even fitness trackers on their wrist, people have stopped and asked them. I can bet you money that people have been stopped and asked about their watches and stuff. And you get compliments. People don't focus on the band. When I give my watch to people to wear, first comment out of their mouth is, it's so light, it's so comfortable. I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that what you want? I mean, you can go ahead and get there are smartwatches out there, like the Moto 360, the new Pebble stainless steel, the LG G Watch R, and the Martian, which is just a weird one. It's just notification based, but they all maintain the steel metal bands. And people who want that look, that's fine. I mean, people who are used to wearing watches it'll be seamless for them. It's nice having a watch on there, but at the end of the day, when you want something to keep on when you're doing your activities, whether you're going right from work, going to the gym, moving around and stuff, this gets intrusive. Because if you go to the gym, you gotta take it off, put it down, and it's heavy. Or if you sit down, the metal will get into your arm. It's just that's just my personal take on it. But these rubber bands that they have on these watches, so comfortable. I mean, so I encourage you to go to the actual stores and try the watches on for yourself. If you have a friend who has one, let them ask them to try them on and stuff. Just because it's so much, you gotta feel good with the watch at the end of the day. I mean, there's so much to choose from. Sorry, folks, I know I'm lingering here, but it's just there's so much to cover on these watches that a simple 10-minute, even 20-minute video may not even be able to cover it. And I want to give you all the knowledge that you need to do this. Another misconception that you may have is about the battery life. A lot of people are kind of downplaying the Samsungs and the Android Wears because the battery life doesn't last that long. And where the Pebble, at least the basic watch, the $100 one, will last a good while because it's using the, I think the same type of screen technology that the Amazon, like Kindle, not the Kindle Fire, but the Nook pretty much used, where it's just like a black and white screen, like the old calculation stuff, and that uses less power than these, these bright color ones and stuff. But the one thing you have to keep in mind is, do you keep your watch on 24/7? I mean, ask yourself that. Like a lot of people diss about the battery life, but I want you to sit there and ask yourself, do you keep your normal watch on 24/7? And the answer should be, most of them, no. Because a lot of people take them on and off throughout the day. When you get home, you put it off and put it in a counter. And it's going to be the same for these watches. You come home, you're ready to go to bed, you just go ahead and click them on and go to bed. These watches will last on average 12 to 18 hours, or at least an entire day. I know people have boasted about, well, my Pebble or this watch and that watch lasted a week without having to charge. Well, that's great. But there's a reason why they're using less power. It's because they don't do that much. They're not offering you all this extra functionality. They're just giving you basic needs, which for some of you may be just fine. But for people like me and other people who want to do apps, watch videos, play music, and all that other jazz, you need more power. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to need it. But I mean, keep in mind, like I'm going to repeat it again. You're not going to put this on for 24 hours straight. You're going to come home and take it off and put it into bed. I mean, you're going to put it in the dock charger. Because you come home, you plug in your phone, right? Well, what's one more thing to plug in? I mean, it's really not that bad. I have people ask me about that, and it's like, not that intrusive in my life. It's not that inconvenient. I mean, so there's that. You may have different thoughts on it, but it's the same argument that people have with the Tesla. People, or even the Nissan Leaf. People are like, 100 miles, 200 miles, that's not enough. I drive more than that. That's definitely not, it's pointless. Well, it's not. I mean, for all of you, can you really say, I know there's people who do drive more than 100 miles a day, or even 200 miles a day, but for the average person, you go to work and come back, 20, 30-minute drive. I tested the Leaf for a day, and then it's like literally you get, I used maybe half the mileage in an entire day, going to work, coming back, going to groceries and stuff, and I'm done. I didn't have to pay, you know, it's just like, that argument becomes not valid. And it's just, it depends on your use. I think, once again, it depends on your use. If you're out of your house, you're constantly moving for 2 days, 5 days straight in a row where you don't have time to sit down and plug in your phone, then the Pebble might be good for you. But at the end of the day, your iPhone won't last as, it's just a weird argument to have about battery life, but that's just my take on it. All right, well, I'm going to dive right into the point of which watch specifically to choose now. And the beauty of these watches, it's funny, all of them have the same operating system, but the watches vary so much in price. And why is that? And it's because all of them offer a different type of screen, different type of band and shape, and maybe improved enhancements. So it's just like the phone battles now. Like if you compare the iPhone 5 to the iPhone 6, externally it looks different. Obviously the screen got a little bit bigger, different shape, blah blah blah. At the end of the day, what is it running? iOS. All the iPhones run iOS. All the Android phones run Android. It's just a model that changes. So at the end of the day, that's just what you gotta ask yourself. Like even for Pebble, they have two different watches. You can get one for $100 or one for $200. Well, what are you getting for that extra 100? Well, you're getting a leather band, stainless steel cover for the watch part, and you're getting a backlit screen. And maybe some other extra stuff. But essentially, those are the three things you're paying for. You're paying that extra $100 for a premium feel and to be able to look at it in the dark. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's pretty much what it is. And it's the same thing with the Android wears. You can get the LG G Watch R for under $150 now. When it came out last year, it was over $200. But now you can get it for a pretty decent price. You can get some other Android Wear phones for Android Wear watches for under $150 now, I think. But then there's ones that are priced $300. Well, what's the $150 price difference? Well, once again, it's for that premium feel. You're paying $100 for a leather band, stainless steel face, or a watch face that looks like a watch. Not to diss those watches, because from the reviews I've seen and a couple friends who have them, they're gorgeous. Oh my gosh, the screens are gorgeous. They look good. They feel good. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself that. Is that you want to pay that extra $150 for that premium feel? Or is that not important to you and then you just want to get the basic watch? That's what you got to ask yourself. I'm not here to judge the two watches. I'm just here to ask you questions so you can make a right decision on the watches. So ask yourself that. Is that $150 worth it for that premium feel? If it is, you have the money, go for it. Those are awesome watches. But if you just need basic functions and you have a limited budget, then get these watches. They're just as good in my opinion. They get the job done and they're awesome. The one thing I failed to mention actually right now that I think about it is the standalone watches, where it's just started. Will.i.am is releasing a watch, Microsoft's getting on board, and now, but the Samsung Gear S, the thing I'm wearing right now that I've done a lot of reviews on, is the first watch that offers a standalone function. Not quite there where you can just solely just use the watch by itself as a phone, even though you can right now. It's not, it's 75% there, in my opinion, with this one. Is this watch for everyone? No. I encourage you to watch my other videos on this watch to determine if this type of watch is the right one for you. Because this watch is sort of the all of the above, pretty much this letter E choice, where it's everything above, where it gets all the functions there. It doesn't excel in anything, I would say. But it's beautiful, it's curvy, check out other videos on it. But that's a $300 watch. Right up there with the Moto 360 and the LG G Watch R and soon to be Apple Watch. If premium watches is what you're looking for, that's a different ball game in general. But overall, you know, that's what you want to look out for. Now, I know this video is pretty long, and if you actually sat through and watched up to this point, thank you very much. And you know, I really hope that I've at least started addressing some of the concerns or questions that you may have had. I know there's a ton more. There's so many things that these watches do that one video won't cover at all. Like, hence all the videos I did for the Gear S. And I encourage you, there's a comment section below. Please go ahead and feel free to ask a question. By no means am I an expert on everything, but I make it a purpose to at least be knowledgeable in the content, knowledgeable in the product, and if not, be able to find you the answers. A lot of my subscribers have already found me to be pretty resourceful, and I hope to be a resourceful guide for you guys. So please feel free to ask a question about any of the watches down below. I've worn, I've tested, I've tried out all of them. I haven't had a chance to review all of them because I couldn't buy them on my own. These are just mainly from what I've seen from my friends, but I definitely encourage you to ask questions and be engaging. I don't mind answering questions, and with all the questions I may receive, I might make a follow-up to this video. So there's that. If you already haven't done so too, please leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down to tell me if you liked or disliked this video. Also, if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button to support my channel. If you like my review style, if you like my vlogging styles, and everything else, every subscription really does help me, you know, grow this channel more and more. So there's that. So if you've actually sat through and waited to the end of the video, watch everything, thank you. I really appreciate your time. I know that there's so many other YouTubers and so many other videos out there that you could be watching. I just really appreciate you taking your time to watch mine. So just thank you very much. And if I don't see you next time, thanks for stopping by. But as always, thank you, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye. You get to be a pilot? What? Oh yes, what do I do? What do I do? Oh, okay. Oh. Oh, sweet. Okay. Oh, I get to pilot this thing. Wait, how do I pilot?
Over here. Look at me.
I'm looking at you.
Take a moment to look around you and familiarize yourself with your surroundings.